Heather from KU Booktubes, and this is my 3-year booktube anniversary. So 2020, April, mid-April, I made my first ever video, and it's 3 years later, so that's very exciting. Thank you so much to not only all of you who watch, maybe I've never actually interacted with, but you've watched my videos, but also if you comment or share, or all the people who I consider to be friends because we interact with so much. My family life is great. I have like a really good life, but I really can't tell where I would be in the last few years without this community. This hobby has meant a lot to me. It's been a great outlet, especially during COVID, and it's just really enriched my life in a way that I'm very grateful for. So thank you. So today is all the books I have checked out on Kindle Unlimited. I don't mention any that I have already talked about in my most recent Kindle Unlimited TBR. A lot of people do, I don't. It doesn't matter, it's just my preference. So for my videos, I do my preference. So I have a couple that are still checked out and I won't be mentioning them. So also, if you could let me know, do you want me to do this for like library books that I check out, either in its own section in the same video or in a different video, or not at all? It's not something that I've been doing, it's something I've kicked around, and I don't really care either way. So just let me know if you want it or not, and I'll basically decide based on feedback whether that's something I should include in the future. The first one is The KingsHorrible Bride by Wilde. I love Katie Wilde's fantasy romance. She does write other things under this pen name that are not just fantasy romance. This one is a king and the woman he's supposed to marry, but I don't think it's fantasy. It talks about billionaire and cameras and things like that. So I think it's a contemporary romance, which is not my thing at all. I really don't care about contemporary royals. It's what I meant, not contemporary romance in general, but contemporary royals. I could not care less about them. I really only prefer it in a fantasy setting, but I love Katie Wilde's writing, so this is the only one that I'm actively interested in that I have not yet read. It's been on my TBR for forever. I'm ready. So basically, I think it's her dad paid for this man to regain his throne, and now it's like 10 years later, and he pretends to love her in front of the cameras, but not behind closed doors, and it's time for them to finally marry. And like I think she loves him, but isn't going to be a loveless wife. Should be a good time. They're usually steamy, not too angsty. I'm looking forward to it. Then I have A Quiet Life in the Country, which is Lady Hardcastle Mysteries #1 by T.E. Kinsey. Who even knows what I wrote there? This is because of Joshana. It is like an older English lady and her maid, and they solve mysteries. I don't think there's any sort of romance or anything like that, but Joshana really loves these characters and just thinks they're funny and witty, and you know, I love a good mystery where you're figuring out who did it and you're the smartest person in the room. So she has raved about this, so that's why it's on my TBR, is really because she's made it sound like something I might enjoy. Then I have Critical Role Vox Machina Origins #1 by Matthew Mercer. So this is a Dungeons and Dragons comic book thing, and my husband has been watching the animated series on Amazon and was like, hey, it's a book, you should read it. I was like, eh. So then I was going to read it because it's like 27 pages, right? So I was going to read it, but it's actually like a graphic novel comic book. I'm not sure which category it falls in. But so I read those on the iPad, and the iPad was dead. So it has yet to happen. That's honestly why it's on my TBR. I'm going to read it for my husband. And tell him if I like it or not, and if I do, I'll continue, and if I don't, that's as far as my love goes, is one 27-page comic book. Then I have Blood Mercy, which is Blood Grace #1 by Vela Roth. If you're anything like me, you have seen this time and time and time again, and I haven't really been that interested in it. However, Joshana, again, when I think it was in my February wrap-up maybe, I was talking about how like the specific type of character, especially in fantasy, is my favorite thing in the entire world. That character that's smarter than everyone else and just pulls strings and is just so incredibly clever and so satisfying when you see like all of their machinations coming to fruition and all of that. and she said that the main character of the series is exactly what I was describing. And I was like, well, for the first time ever, I'm immediately interested in this book. So this is a fantasy series with vampires. We're dealing with a princess, and she is, like I said, incredibly smart and is trying to do diplomacy and, you know, have political things work out and save her people and all of that. And her dad, I think, is the worst, that type of thing. Deshauna said it is incredibly slow burn, not only with the romance, but also with the plot, the world building, the political maneuverings, all of that is slow, which normally she wouldn't be into, but it's one of those where it's like, I don't care, I love it, it's amazing, this is perfection, there are no complaints to be had. So because of that, I am super interested. I am currently in my fantasy era again. I've been reading a lot, which I'm so happy about, because there was really a couple years there where I barely read anything that was fantasy, and I missed it while also not being able to get into the books that I tried to pick up, because I did grow up reading fantasy. That's why I read all the way up until starting romance. So fantasy is something that I want to consistently read. I'm just, you know, a romance reader primarily, truthfully. But so I'm very excited to be picking up and loving fantasy books, whether that is fantasy romance or regular genre fantasy. I'm just very happy about it. Then I have Princess, which is Kindle #2 by Claire Kent. This is in her dystopian series. She's 17 when the meteor hits and civilization ends as we know it, and her dad buys them space in the underground bunker. So she's been spending the last several years in the bunker, and she has, I think, an age gap romance with one of the guards there. I love Claire Kent. You can pretty much expect one of her books to be checked out on Kindle Unlimited from now till I have all of her backlist finished, so just anticipate that. She just doesn't miss for me, honestly, just perfection. Next I have For Never by Aurora Rose Reynolds. It's a contemporary romance. She's his secretary. She has to fake fiance him. He's like a billionaire or whatever. Very low angst, very low conflict, insta love is what you can usually expect from Aurora Rose Reynolds. I don't expect this to be great, but I do expect to enjoy it. So we'll see where on the scale it falls. Expect insta-love and alpha and possessive and I'll do anything for you. Then I have The Vampire in the Bookstore by Elle Drew, and I am not sure who I saw this from on Instagram. I'm not even 100% sure if it's someone I follow or if it was a suggested post, but somebody posted about this book and had like all the kinks listed, and I was like, hi. It's me. I want this. I know there's like primal play and other things, but I was just like, oh. I have no idea what the plot to this is. It doesn't matter. We're here for the kink, and the kink sounded really good, so. Then I have The Man I Know, which is a married couple romance by Daisy Jane. I got this from Tracy at Bookend to Bookend on Instagram, who is someone I love. She thought that I would like this. It is a married couple, and then basically they find out that they need kink and they're not getting kink, and they explore it together, and I really love the idea of that. Obviously I've been married for a long time. And so I really like reading about married couples where like things aren't bad, but then they do have something change in their relationship or their circumstances, and you kind of get to peek in on their love story in that time window, that time frame. So I am really looking forward to it. Tracy did say there are some content warnings. I don't know what those are, but that's why I'm interested in it. Then I have Elemental Inferno by AJ Locke. This is from Vena at Miss WOC Reader. Here on BookTube and Instagram and Twitter and BookTok, I think. I don't know. Are you on BookTok? I don't know. Anywho, what was I saying? Oh, okay. So she told me about this. It's a fantasy romance, obviously, with at least a black main character. I'm not sure if it's black romance or not. But she can only have sex during her season. She's like a winter fae or princess or something like that, and then she like finds someone who can fix that. And I just think it sounds like a really interesting premise. Our reading taste is not always the same, but we do overlap in certain areas, so we'll see if this is one of those ones where she and I both enjoy it. Next I have the Warrior Midwife, which is the Warrior Midwife #1. I'm sorry, what is a midwife? It's midwife with a W. Like helping deliver children, babies, infants, labor, maternity. What is a midwife? I believe it's a trilogy by E.P. Bali. I got this from Sarah at Book Terror on Instagram. She answered a questions thing that I did in my stories about diverse fantasy romance, because I'm in my fantasy era, as we've already established. And this just sounds, first of all, I really like this cover, and I won't lie, I am a discriminator of covers. If your cover is pretty, I'm more likely to pick up your book. I can't lie. Anyways, it sounds really interesting. So she's like a princess and a warrior and a midwife, and things are happening, and I think she's like being forced into a marriage, but is training as a warrior, but wants to be a midwife, but is trying to free her people as we do. So I really don't, it just kind of sounded interesting, and I wanted to pick it up, try it, see if the writing works for me like I do. Then I have Empire of Hanging Swords, which is Gods and Empires #1 by R.R. Egal. This is also from Vena. This is a book that she read the arc for. She was a beta reader. And it sounds really interesting. You have an empress, which I always like kind of peeking in on the actual ruler rather than like the princess or the prince or the captain of the guard. I like when you're the person in charge. I really do enjoy that. So we have an empress, and she's looking for the murderer of her father, I think. And then it turns out that it was her closest ally. And then it turns out maybe he's being framed. I think is what I was getting from this. But there's all sorts of things, including the gods. They're telling her conflicting information. And it's just like, somebody's lying, or maybe all of you are lying, but I don't know what to believe and what to find out. So again, I was like, yeah, I will try the writing. One of the big reasons why I do the Kindle Unlimited TBRs is because I DNF, I delete without ever having read it, all of that. And for me, I know like there's a multi-step process to become a book that I read and shows up in my wrap-up. First, you have to be available on one of the services that I use. Secondly, I have to be interested enough in it to add it to Goodreads. Then I have to be interested in it enough to download it. Then I have to be interested enough in it to start it. Then I have to not DNF it. So there's a lot of different layers. So when things do make it to my downloads, I think that it's kind of fun to talk about them, because it's never me reading all of these this month. That simply is not how my reading works. And so I don't know, it's just a way to tell you about books that maybe don't make it all the way to the wrap up for no good reason, because we all know I am not about giving books a fair chance. I don't care if I gave you a fair chance or not, but this is a way for you to find out about it. Then lastly, I have A Rake of His Own, which is Starial #5 by A.J. Lancaster. So the first 4 books in this series all follow the same couple, and she is like the head of a quiet country estate that's also a fae land, and there's magic and all sorts of things. Magic, dragons, fae, all of that stuff, right? So the first 4 books follow that main couple, and then we have this, and I saw that it's supposed to be the only spin-off of it, but this is about her brother and his brother having their own romance. And I was really intrigued by their characters in the quartet, and just, you know, really do want to see what happens with them. He is a quiet, scholarly, his father was like, you're not good enough, you know, human. And then we have a fae prince, and he is really sexual and really charming and just supremely confident, I guess, and also deadly. But our human is like a historical English society plus fae, right? So he really views being gay as a problem, even though the fae don't view it like that. So content warning there, I guess, for internalized homophobia, and I don't know if we will see any homophobia on page. I know we didn't really see any in the previous books, but this is his book, so I don't know. But he definitely wishes he weren't gay. So know that, I guess. But is there romance? I would not be surprised if I read this month. I already read the first 4 books this month. Couldn't tell you why. Couldn't tell you why it works for me. I don't know, but I really like it. So here we are. So that's it. That's all of the books I've checked out from Kindle Unlimited right now. When you see this video, I will be on vacation. So I plan on reading some of these, at least, hopefully, on vacation, and you'll get a vlog for that. So the 5 of you that watch the vlogs, you'll get that. So thanks so much for watching. Again, thank you for any videos that you've watched of mine in the last 3 years. I just love doing this, and I really am glad that I'm not doing it to nobody. So thanks. Bye.